This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Report, a show made by fans for fans, powered by Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and with me is Andrew's going to give us this week's topics.
Cade Cunningham. That's a topic. That's it.
I'm laughing because I'll preface by saying I do not know what Andrew's going to say for his intro. My intro is obviously pre-planned. It's not pre-recorded, but it does sound the same pretty much every single week. But my intro obviously is scripted. It's the same thing every single week. Andrew giving the topics is always different, and I never know what he's going to say.
We used to script it for the live show, and but then we figured it'd be more fun if I just sprung them on you. We know the topics ahead of time. He just doesn't know
So
how I'm going to word it in the intro.
Each week that he does the introduction to the topics, it's always different, and so I like when he does something a little bit different. And Cade Cunningham, that's a good way to do it. It's true.
Is there anything more to say?
No.
I'll be honest. I was bummed that we didn't get to do his show last Tuesday. I was out of town. I was out in Boston, and I've never wished that Boston was in the lottery more than I did last Tuesday.
Oh, to be able to rub it in the face of the Celtics fans would be amazing.
I was at the bar watching that. I cut everything off for that night. I'm like 8:30. I'm sitting out at the bar watching this lottery, and watching those envelopes get open, and the commercial when they cut to commercial break with the top four still yet to be announced, like order still yet to be announced. I was sweating, like I was so nervous.
So
and when we saw the Rockets card get pulled out at number 2, I jumped up off the bar and started like they probably thought I was a madman.
They probably
I wasn't
did.
drunk. I was only 1 beer in. I definitely wasn't drunk.
Oh, geez, if I would have been sitting there, I'd have been like 6 or 7 deep by then. I would be so stressed. I was watching it on my couch, much like you alone. I was just chilling there. I had my 2 dogs next to me. We were watching, and as I'm seeing the envelopes get open, we get top 4. You know, I'm excited. I'm happy. At that point, I'm happy. Obviously, I'd have been much happier if we won. I was much happier once I saw top 3.
Going in, it was just like, please not 5 or 6. Please not 5 or 6.
Not 5 or 6 or later, obviously. So,
it wouldn't be later than 6.
True. So not 5 or 6. So once I saw top 4, there was a weight lifted off my shoulders. I felt like I could breathe at that point. And then once we were top 3, that's when I started to get really excited because top 3 was where I said, okay,
that's the money area.
This is the area that I really want to be. Nothing bad against Jalen Suggs. I just think that the top 3 would have been a better fit for this team. And then we hit top 2, and I went home run. We've hit a home run at this point because one up Jalen Green or Cade Cunningham. That's perfect.
Was it just me though? I don't know about you. It felt like once that third envelope was unveiled and it was Cleveland, it was just between us and Houston. For some reason, there was like no doubt in my mind we were number 1. I'm like, we've come too far.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
I'm like, all right, show me Houston, baby.
I'm not gonna lie to you because
Houston.
I felt like the NBA wasn't going to reward the Houston Rockets for so openly and obviously tanking to the point where they allowed the Timberwolves to put up 25 straight points on them and that happened multiple times this season. Like so openly and obviously tanking that I felt like the NBA just did not want to reward them for it.
For me, it was just going in like the worst team never gets the pick.
True, you're not wrong.
So it's us in Houston. It's going to be us,
right? But once we hit number 1, I immediately jumped to my feet, grabbed the dog, I was holding my dog up, and then I started ballroom dancing her around the room and going nuts. She got all excited because she loves that kind of attention. Pretty much, I was ecstatic, and it was pure joy. So I remember being young, 10 years old or 9 years old, in my living room with my dad growing up, watching the lottery, the 2003 lottery, and seeing us get closer and closer. And if I remember right, we just couldn't have the Grizzlies get the number 1 pick.
Correct. It was number 1 protected at the time.
And they got number 2. And I remember both my dad and I started jumping up and down, going nuts. And I remember the pure joy that I felt there. And it was the exact same feeling.
Let's just hope it's not the exact same outcome.
God. Luckily, there's no like project with elite talent potential at number one in this draft. There is a clear-cut number one.
You got to get to number 5 for that, Jonathan.
Right. There's a clear-cut number one. You know, if in this circumstance, if Cade Cunningham does not work out, I can't blame the Pistons. I can't blame Troy Weaver because I don't know if there's another team in this league that wouldn't have taken him.
Do you buy these reports that are coming out from like guys like John Hollinger that basically that Cade Cunningham is not a lock at number one for the Pistons?
No, I don't. I don't buy those at all. I think Cade Cunningham immediately is the number one pick. Like the Pistons are on the clock. They've already handed the envelope in. I firmly believe that. I think that if you look at scouts around the league, I'd probably say maybe 6 or 7 out of 10 scouts say Cade Cunningham's the number one pick. 2 say Jalen Green.
Well, I think it's more than that. I think it's
out of 10 scouts.
9.5 out of 10 scouts.
Sure. And then the other one's probably Jalen Green, and maybe one other one is somebody else. But firmly believe that Cade Cunningham is the guy at number one the Pistons want. I mean, look at the reaction videos from guys like Dwayne Casey and Troy Weaver and when the Pistons landed the number one pick. I mean, they were jumping around the room all ecstatic. You don't do that unless you already have your guy in mind. And it's very possible that they have 2 guys in mind in both Cade and Jalen Green. And they're ecstatic to get either one of them, but you don't react like that.
They were jumping for
exactly. You don't react.
They weren't
like that
jumping for
unless...
Jalen Green at 1. They had a shot Jalen Green at 2 and 3. They weren't jumping for Jalen Green at 1.
You don't react like that unless you know you're getting your guy. And you're getting the guy in this draft. And that's how they reacted. And so, in my opinion, there's no question Cade Cunningham is going to be the number one pick. To think otherwise, I think, is just trying to be the smartest guy in the room, trying to be an ass at that point, frankly. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that like Troy Weaver was telling the truth on lottery night when he said that we're going to be evaluating around 4 or 5 guys in this draft. But to take that and be like, well, Cade Cunningham is not a sure thing at 1. I'm like, it's your job to do your due diligence. That doesn't mean you're not taking Cade Cunningham at 1. Like,
you also got to remember that they have 3 picks in the second round. There's a very high possibility the Pistons package those 3 picks and move into number 1 and move into the first round with that late, which then they should be evaluating 4 or 5 guys at that spot. Like there's, one guy at number 1, but at maybe 25 or later, there's probably 5, 6, 7 guys they could be looking at in that spot that they potentially could go and get. They've got the assets to do it. And I think that I personally believe with what we've seen with Troy Weaver, he's aggressive. He wants to do it. So, yeah, they are going to be looking at a multitude of guys, but it isn't going to be at number 1. It's going to be late in the first round, likely, to see if there's somebody there that they like that they're going to move up to go get. You're going to see them try out guys that, or not necessarily try out, but them pay attention to the pro days of guys that are looked at to go early in the top 10, obviously, because that's what you do, and guys that are looked at to be going late in the first round, because there is a possibility that the Pistons do trade up to go get guys like that.
Speaking of like evaluating prospects or looking at prospects, one of my favorite parts of draft season is just as a fan going through and just watching film on different first round prospects and evaluating them and seeing which ones would fit with the Pistons. And
doing mock drafts and now
it's like, no
need.
Pointless.
Like it almost feels like there's a weight lifted off your shoulders. Like you don't have to do this anymore. I love
mock draft season. It's so fun. But
I do too. But it feels good not to have to worry about it.
Yeah. But dude, that night, Tuesday night after we landed the number 1 pick, I'd been holding off on indulging in any kind of Cade Cunningham like video watching or trying to imagine Cade Cunningham business. I've been holding off because I'm like, I don't want to get my hopes up. Like, I don't even want to think about it because it's not going to happen. And just to be able to let loose that night and just watch all kinds of Cade Cunningham footage. Oh, it felt good.
I mean, it's a weird feeling being a Detroit fan to know we've been rewarded in some way. Like we moved up.
It doesn't happen.
When is the last time a Detroit team has moved up in a draft lottery? Like I can't tell you the last time.
Oh, Detroit Pistons never. I don't know
no, just a Detroit team.
Yeah.
Granted, there's only 2 lotteries, but The Wings always get screwed over every year, and I feel like the Pistons always get screwed over every year. So to see us, I mean, this is the first time we've had the number 1 overall pick since like 1970 something.
1970 flat.
Yeah, exactly. So that right there tells you how long it's been. Granted, we had success in the lottery back in 2003 with the Grizzlies pick, but that's the last time I can remember. I mean, year after year of the last decade has been the Pistons moving back in the lottery or staying put in the lottery, and the Wings, it's the same deal. So for us to get rewarded and move up in the lottery, not only that, but get the number 1 pick, it's unfamiliar territory for me as a fan of a Detroit sports team. It's good. It's a good feeling.
Let's get the nitty gritty on this, though. Yeah, let's get the nitty gritty on this, though. There's one narrative that I've been seeing out there that I almost feel like I'm in the minority that I disagree with it, but I just want to get your gauge on it. So I've been seeing a lot of narrative among Pistons fans that the fit with Cade Cunningham and Killian Hayes, like there's nothing to worry about. It's a seamless fit. And I think that is asinine. I'm not going to say asinine, but you're banking on a lot of things happening. Because basically the way I see it is you're going to want the ball in Cade Cunningham's hands.
Absolutely. He's a shot creator. He's the guy. He's your number 1 guy.
Yeah, one of his biggest skill sets is controlling pace of play, getting his teammates open.
Right.
He's a wizard with the ball, and he's way better in the pick and roll than Killian is because of his offensive threat. Killian doesn't have that same offensive threat that Cade Cunningham does.
Killian's a great passer and great facilitator, but he's not a threat offensive scoring speaking.
Yeah. He's not going to draw guys in on a pick and roll.
Right.
It's
right.
But Cade will, and he does. Now, you can say, all right, we'll play Killian off ball. We experimented with it, and that's fine, dandy, but you're honestly going to sit here and hope that Cade turns into a shooter, which we don't know what's going to happen. And Cade's best ability right now is his playmaking for others. It's his ability to find the open lanes, dish out the rock to his
Cade
teammates.
Or Killian?
Killian, sorry. So by playing Killian at the 2, you're stunting his best asset, and you're just praying that all of a sudden he becomes a shooter, which he's, as of right now, isn't.
Yes and no.
I just want to know, do you think that they run that lineup off the bat together?
I do. Provided Killian is fully healthy and they feel Cade is ready to go, which I
Killian
think
at the 1 or Cade at the 1?
You're going to see Cade as well. I don't think there's going to be a 1 and 2 on this team. I firmly
That's the
believe
way
that.
it's going to have to work. If
You're going to have 2 combo guards there between Killian and Cade Cunningham, and both of them are going to run the offense depending on the play that's called. Cade Cunningham can move off ball. Cade Cunningham can get himself open, and he can also get the ball on the wing off of a screen and make his own shot happen from there. And after Killian dishes him the ball, you can make plays centered around Cade Cunningham that don't involve him bringing the ball up the floor, but you can also make plays around him that do. So I think you're going to see a 2 combo guard situation where Killian Hayes is probably going to be controlling the ball some of the time, depending on the play called, and Cade's going to be controlling the ball the other time. When it's Cade time, and by that I mean time for your guy to take over the game, he's going to be bringing the ball up 70% of the time or more. But I think when the Pistons are in the flow of their offense, you're going to see both of them commanding the basketball and facilitating and directing the offense and making plays happen from there. A lot of it's going to be with Cade Cunningham taking the shot or making the play happen, but it's probably going to start with Killian Hayes finding the open man, making a play happen. And the nice thing about it is when you have that, because I think it's one of those situations where it's a good problem to have 2 top-tier facilitators in your backcourt. And I say that because even off ball, Cade Cunningham's going to be such a distraction for the defense. It almost makes Killian Hayes' job easier.
Oh, it will.
Because Killian Hayes is going to be, running the offensive play. Cade Cunningham off ball is going to be running around screens, getting open, and then he's going to draw the attention of the defense off ball even more. And Killian Hayes is a great passer and he has a great eye to find the open man, that when that happens, guess what? Somebody's going to be open, and it's likely going to be somebody else in the corner, on the wing, and that's where he's going to be able to find that player. So I think this can work. It's going to take some adjustments, but is it going to seamlessly work right away? There's gonna be growing pains. You've got 2 really young players in there, so there's going to be growing pains regardless. But to say it doesn't fit, I don't necessarily agree with that because of the fact that it's a positionless league as it is, which I think is an overused trope to begin with. But it's a good problem to have, and I think it's one that Dwayne Casey will know what to do with.
Yeah. Oh no, it's definitely not about positions. You're gonna be playing in both positionless anyways. It's my worry is taking the ball out of either guy's hands. Cade, Cade, we know can play the two. He's just
so good with the ball in his hands that you want it
exactly.
in his hands.
I just don't want. I want the ball in his hands.
It's almost a situation where
taking the ball out of Killian's hands. I don't know what you do with him in that offense until you get the ball back in his hands. Like
right
off ball, I don't think he's going to be very useful until you get the ball back in his hands. I completely agree with you that you're going to have two playmakers on the floor, and whoever has the ball in their hands is going to be the one running that offense on that play on that set. But what I'm saying is when Cade's bringing it up, what is Killian doing? That's
the question there. What is Killian doing? Which, again, though, Killian, at that point, it can be one of those guys that runs around screens and then makes the extra pass when you ask him to, and he finds the open man off of another play. Like, that type of to have a facilitator that you can give the ball to who's able to see the open man regardless of where he is on the floor, that's again, a really good luxury to have. And I'm going to disagree and say that when Cade doesn't have the ball in his hands, he's useless. I disagree with that 100%. I think Cade off ball is excellent. I think you want the ball in his hands more, but I still think Killian Hayes, when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, can make enough happen, and to where if Cade dishes him the ball, he's able to either dish it over again to somebody else or maybe some give and go type situations. Who knows? But it almost does make you feel like at times where
run the weave up the court,
where you almost want Killian Hayes to be on the bench when Cade Cunningham is on the floor sometimes, depending on the game situation.
Yeah, you can stagger it, definitely.
Right, just so Cade can do work. You know what I mean? It opens it up a little bit more for Cade to live freely, so to speak. And
there's definitely a world where one of those guys is on the court at all times.
Oh, I definitely think that it is a situation. I don't know if there's going to be more than 10 minutes of the game that one of those guys isn't on the floor at a certain point. I think you're going to see a situation where both guys or one of those guys are almost always on the floor. And
oh my God, it feels so good to not have to be subjected to like 15 straight minutes of like DeLon Wright running the point or Frank Jackson.
Right. It is a good feeling. And granted, Killian Hayes does still have some growth to do. He's got to slow down a little bit or allow the game to come to him a little bit more. But you've seen flashes where he can be successful. And I know there's a lot of people that have come out, and I'm seeing it kind of come up more and more. You didn't really see it so much last year, but I've seen it come up more and more with the fact that we are able to grab Cade Cunningham now. People saying Killian Hayes is just going to end up being a bust. I've seen it more and more. I don't necessarily agree with it. And it's because I've seen a lot of talent and potential out of Killian Hayes that if the shot doesn't fall, then you're looking at a potential for that to be true. But at the very worst, if he doesn't develop that shot, you're looking at a defensive juggernaut that can facilitate the offense.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. I am not out on Killian Hayes by any stretch of the imagination.
He'd be your backcourt defending defensive specialist, and there's nothing wrong with having a guy like that on your roster. He's Lindsey Hunter.
I'm also so excited about the defensive potential of a backcourt of Cade and Killian. I mean, just the length alone.
Oh, the length would be is amazing. But I mean, think about it though. How important was Lindsey Hunter to the championship team and to that going to work crew? Crucial. Well, I mean, that if at worst...
He was a defensive version of Vinnie Johnson.
Exactly. So at worst...
He was your defensive spark plug off.
That would be, at worst, Killian Hayes would be a longer Lindsey Hunter. At worst. And I think he's going to be better than that. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, I mean, again, there is a pathway for Killian Hayes to be on this roster for the future, even if he doesn't really develop much of a shot. It's because of the other tools that he has in his arsenal.
Let's just hope he's working on that shot, though. Because it'd be so much better if he were.
If he develops the shot and can shoot well, that backcourt's lethal. On both sides of the ball. Lethal.
All right, here's our hypothetical for you. If we were to draft Cade Cunningham, are you still re-signing Hamidou Diallo?
Yes. Hamidou Diallo's got that length where he can guard pretty much any position on the floor. Cade does as well, but Diallo's a guy that can score off the bench if you ask him to. Frankly, I think Diallo's a guy that's going to be a starter on this team in the future, to be honest with you. But at least I do think he's going to be a guy that off the bench is a spark plug, an energy type guy, a guy with the ball in his hands who can make plays. Diallo, I absolutely think is somebody you should re-sign. I would rather him over, honestly, a lot of the players on this roster because of the potential that he has and the skill set that he possesses. I like Hamidou Diallo a lot. I don't think it makes him redundant in any way. I think that there is a role for Hamidou Diallo on this team that Cade Cunningham won't fill. And
Diallo or Plumlee?
Diallo, 100%.
Agreed.
100 times out of 100.
Diallo or JJ?
Diallo.
Agreed. Last one, Diallo or Frank?
Diallo.
Agreed.
Diallo, I'll be honest with you, of the off-season re-signing candidates, he's probably
top priority.
He's number one for me, yes. I think he's a guy who needs to be on this roster.
All right, assuming you get Cade, what is the next biggest need on this roster?
Biggest need on this roster? I'd like another presence down low. Another guy who can. I mean, Isaiah Stewart's nice, and he's shown a lot. But
you want a roll man.
I want a roll man that can get some, a pick and roll guy that can bring some size and length into that down low position, and maybe also has an ability to step outside. And I like Isaiah Stewart at the 4, but maybe a little bit of a bigger 4 that traditionally can step outside and do a pick and pop or even a pick and roll type guy. I mean, I would like a little bit more size down low. You got great length in your backcourt, great length on the wing between Grant and Diallo. I want some more length down low as well. So if we're going length and athleticism on this roster, you got to get some all over the floor, and that includes in the paint too.
I still want some shot creation too, but I agree the top priority is a roll man.
I think shot creation's another big one. And in all reality, the Warriors have proven you can't have too many shooters. So some shooting prowess either off the bench or on the wing to start with. You can never have too much of that. So somebody that can be maybe a 3-and-D guy, like a Michael Bridges would be amazing. But obviously he's with the Suns. But so a player like that would be a definite luxury for the Pistons to have on this roster. I would put that as my number 3. My number 3 type player that I'd want. Number 2 would be shot creation, and then number 1, obviously, I'd like some more size, a roll man, some size in down low as well. Not to take Isaiah Stewart out because he's my number 1. He's my 5 day 1.
It's amazing how much shorter my list of needs got just by getting Cade Cunningham. Because he fills so many roster needs.
He fills so many holes on this roster because of his. Well, first and foremost, what have we been saying since we started this podcast on what the Pistons need? They need a number 1 guy. They need their star, their takeover man, and that's Cade Cunningham. And that was the number 1 need. But he also fills shot creation. He fills ball possessing, guy who can create his own shot, guy who can command the offense, guy who can draw the defense, get penetration, find the open man, or take it to the hole himself. And a guy who almost does it all. And that Cade Cunningham fills all those.
You have your pick and roll wizard now. You suddenly have much greater length just by getting Cade Cunningham.
Right. And there's a lot. That's one thing I've noticed with the way Troy Weaver has built this roster is there's a lot of length on this team.
Yep.
Between Cade, Killian, Jeremy Grant, Diallo, Josh Jackson, there's tons of length on this roster that it's what you want. I mean, it's great. You don't really necessarily have a guy on the floor that can't guard another position, and in this positionless league, so to speak, you need that because there are so many picks and switches, and you need guys to be able to unilaterally cover 2, even maybe 3 positions on the floor, and you've got multiple guys that can do it now.
So I know you're not a summer league person.
No.
But if Cade plays, you're watching.
Cade won't play. I would be pretty.
I'm just giving you hypothetical. If Cade plays, you're watching.
Probably not, because I don't put stock in it. I don't put any stock in the summer.
No one's going to put stock in it. It'll just be fun to watch Cade play with some of the guys.
I might watch 1 or 2 at most if I'm really
No one
bored.
puts stock in it. They just want to see their guys play.
There's tons of people that put stock in summer league. Just it's the same type of guy that puts stock in the preseason games. Like I will never take anything concrete out of summer league. I won't.
Damn, Stanley Johnson was damn near summer league MVP.
Exactly.
His rookie
look
year.
what he did. Nothing. He was terrible. Absolute trash.
He was putting up like 20 points a game.
Right. But again, I would be shocked if Cade Cunningham played in Summer League. I really don't think he will. I think Killian probably will because of the fact that he didn't get as much run as he would want last year with the injury. I think Saban Lee will. I really don't think Bay will, to be honest with you. I don't think Cade will, and I'd be pretty surprised even to see Isaiah Stewart play in Summer League also, because those guys, they have their role cemented. And they're
But they also have things that they could work on that Summer League could help with.
I don't think Summer League really can help with much for guys like that have already really cemented their role and already, like Sadiq Bey. What's Summer League going to teach him?
Not to mention though, like, well, Sadiq Bey, yeah, he's like a seasoned veteran as a rookie, but
exactly.
But not
Isaiah
to mention
Stewart, you probably could because you can further develop his outside shot and things like that. That one makes a little more sense, but
you're also talking about a crop of rookies that didn't have a summer league or an offseason last year. Like, this would actually be their first
offseason
too.
Didn't need it.
Yeah.
Like it honestly, it really goes to show how little impact the summer league actually has, because those guys didn't have it, and at least in some cases they hit the ground straight up running. Like Stewart took a little bit to get going, and then once he got his run, he literally hit the ground running. Once he was given some run, Sadiq Bey, once he was given some run, he hit the ground running. And so for guys like that, I just don't think it's necessary. Stewart, you can make an argument for because of the continued development of his outside shot, but Bey, he already, again, like you said, looks like a seasoned vet. And number one picks almost never play in the summer league because, again, they know who they are, they know what they do, and there's no reason to risk the injury.
It's a hypothetical.
I think Killian is probably going to play, and I think guys like Saban Lee probably will play. But beyond that, I would be a little bit more surprised to see anybody else from this main crop.
I just really want to see a summer league roster of Cade and Killian playing together with Sadiq and Isaiah Stewart and Saban Lee.
Wait till game one. Wait till game one of the regular season.
I just want them to take a dump all over summer league with that roster.
That's when you'll see it as game one of the regular season. Frankly, I don't want to see it because that's too much risking of injury of key guys to me.
It is.
Like I don't want to see that.
Summer league roster is basically your starting roster.
Exactly.
Lineup.
I don't want to see that because I don't want to see someone have a non-contact injury and just derail this entire rebuild. Like what if Sadiq Bey goes down with an ACL? That derails your entire rebuild at the very least for a year. You have a lot weighing on guys like Sadiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, and Cade Cunningham, and you can argue Killian Hayes as well. And for them to play in summer league and take a risk like that, I don't want to see it.
I think Killian plays though.
I do too, and I think it's important that he does, frankly, because he needs more opportunity. He needs an opportunity to just build himself a little bit, build the confidence, so to speak. You know, we didn't.
I think you put Sekou back in there.
Is he even allowed to play? No, I think Sekou Doumbouya absolutely needs to play in summer league. He's a guy who desperately needs to continue developing his game.
Yeah. You know, one thing that didn't dawn on me right away. It took a few days for me to realize it after the lottery. Are the Pistons going to get more nationally televised games this year?
Yes.
Just because of Cade Cunningham?
I think they will. When you have a generational
like drastically
talent,
more?
I mean, how many did they have last year? 2?
I think that was how many.
So by that definition, any more is considered at least 30, yes, drastically more. You'll probably, at the very least, see them double their nationally televised games. When you have a number one pick and he's a generational type talent, you get nationally televised games.
Yeah.
You do.
I'm excited about that too.
Absolutely. I mean, who doesn't want guys like Chuck and Shaq talking about you?
Oh man, but I feel like I'm jumping around a lot. I just have a lot of thoughts. I haven't organized them.
Before you move on, though, we already brought him up, so I wanted to ask this question.
Yeah,
is this the final year that they allow Sekou Doumbouya to develop? Like, is this the year where you need to see something out of Sekou before they just say we're done?
Yeah, because by getting Cade Cunningham, I think after this year, you're legitimately looking. Depending on what we do next offseason with free agency, because that's when we have a lot of money coming off the books, you're legitimately looking at potentially a really good, like a contending, I don't want to say championship contender, but a playoff contending team the following year. And that's when you no longer have the patience for projects and you're trying to get as good as you can as quickly as you can. So yeah, I think this is Sekou's last year to prove himself.
I 100% agree with you, and The reason I say this is because we've been talking about, depending this like recently we mentioned how depending on how the draft goes or how the draft lottery goes, who we get, that will determine whether or not the rebuild gets moved up a year. And with Cade Cunningham, it does. It moves up a year, maybe even 2. Because after this season, moving into next season, Cade's second year, you're probably looking at the Pistons competing for a playoff spot, if not being if they're not a top 10 team in the league in 3 years, then I don't think that this coaching staff and this front office have done their job.
Are they a play-in team this year?
They'll flirt with it at a point. I don't necessarily put them there just yet. I think they'll flirt with it at a point, but I'm not quite there yet. One more year of development, I think you're looking at a 7 or 8 seed team. And then beyond that, on year 3, I think you're at minimum looking at a top 10 team in the league. And at that point, then you're looking at that first round pick that we traded for Christian Wood going away because it would be top 18 protected at that point, and you would lose it. So that first round pick that we traded in the Christian Wood trade probably isn't going to be here much longer. Actually, I think it's top 16 protected. It might be top 18.
It's top 16 next year and then top 18 in the next 2 years.
Okay. And
it's weird. It goes backwards.
Yeah, and then it becomes like top 10 protected or
it's like top 13, then top 11.
And then it becomes a second round pick after that, I think. But I firmly believe that we will be losing.
Protected to high hell.
I firmly believe we will be losing that first round pick in the next couple of years. But you mentioned how next offseason is the one where we have a ton of money coming off the books. It's almost like Troy Weaver scripted this to a T. Like, it goes to show the vision that he has because he knew he was going to be getting a big-time player in this year's draft. And it looked in doubt for a while with the way the Pistons were winning games when they shouldn't have been, but then they pulled a masterful tank at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But knowing you were getting that top-tier talent and then you planned your books to be structured in a way where you've got your talent, you've got your top-tier guy in the draft, now you can look towards free agency and start making plays from there because guys are going to want to come and play with guys like Cade Cunningham and Sadiq Bey because of who they are, and you can start building around that. And you can do that through free agency in the NBA because you don't necessarily need to go get a superstar if you don't feel you want to, but you can. I do think they should. I think in the offseason, the Pistons, next offseason, I know we're looking way far ahead, but I think the Pistons should just go all in. Throw big money at a big-time star and have a 2-headed dragon with Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart as your baby dragon. And then you add in Diallo, you add in other guys out there.
Forget about Jeremy Grant, too.
And Jeremy Grant as well. I mean, it's amazing that you forget it, that it's possible to forget about guys like Jeremy Grant. Frankly.
Well, he didn't play for like the last quarter of the season.
True. So I mean, you would have a roster if you add another superstar or just a star to this mix. It's so lethal, and you're championship contending at that point in my mind. So you could be looking at this team being a top 5 team in the league in a couple of years. So the way that Troy Weaver basically scripted this whole thing is masterful in my mind.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Now, this is the last thing that was in my head, and I do think I'm jumping around a lot, but I've been seeing a lot of talk. I crept onto the Rockets Reddit page for a little bit, nice. And then I don't know if like YouTube read my Reddit history, but then I started getting like Rocket fan videos like on my YouTube recommends. And Rocket fans seem adamant that the Pistons will trade them the number 1 pick for their number 2 pick, and obviously other picks and stuff too.
That is the most wishful thinking I think I've ever seen.
They seem adamant that it's because Cade Cunningham doesn't want to go to Detroit. That's their number 1 argument.
But he wants to go to Houston?
His rival, like literally.
Okay.
He was born and bred in Dallas. He's Houston.
I mean, it is Texas. Still Texas. He'd be close to home.
He'd still be close to home. And because apparently Detroit is way worse of a team than Houston is, according to Rockets fans.
All right, let's just check the standings real quick.
And then, according to Rockets fans, we want Jalen Green more than we want Cade Cunningham.
The only one I will give any kind of merit to out of those is the Jalen Green over Cade Cunningham. There is technically speaking, a possibility of that being true because Jalen Green is actually really good. Everything else is asinine, and I even think that's asinine. So that's the only thing I'll give merit to. But you're also talking to a fan base that I think is slightly delusional.
Agreed. And
very delusional.
this is where my question is leading, though. Is there a package that exists that would make you consider trading back to 2?
Realistically speaking,
Yeah.
no. For me to trade out of number 1, you have to give me.
It's got to be King's Ransom.
It's got to be a Luka Doncic. And that's not going to happen. In all reality, that's not going to happen.
Dallas is not going to give you Luka for the number 1 pick.
Exactly. That's my point. For me to not take Cade Cunningham and give up my pick, you have to give me something along those lines, like Luka or Jason Tatum or something along those lines. Like, I'm not going to trade it otherwise.
And the reason is it's because a 6'8" point guard does not come around that often. Especially
not one with that kind of skill, no.
Yeah.
Not one with that kind of skill, no. And yes, I like Jalen Green a lot, but I'll be honest with you, I think Mike Valeni from the 97.1 Ticket, the afternoon show, I think he put it in the best terms possible. You are only willing to trade that pick if there is another guy in this draft that you have the exact same grade on.
Or higher grade on.
A la what the Celtics did for Jason Tatum when Markelle Fultz was the top guy.
Yep.
They had the same grade on Jason Tatum they had on Markelle Fultz, if not a higher grade. And I frankly do not believe the Pistons have the same grade on Jalen Green as they do Cade Cunningham. And not to say Jalen Green doesn't have a good grade. I think he's got an A, but I think Cade Cunningham's an A+.
Jalen Green's my second favorite player in this draft. I just don't see how you can make an argument for Jalen Green over Cade. That's all I'm
exactly.
saying.
And that's why I firmly do not believe that the Pistons will ever trade this pick unless somebody drunk called up Troy Weaver and said, hey, I'll give you Luka Doncic or Jason Tatum. Like, that's it. I don't want Damian Lillard, and I've seen that trade thrown out there, that Damian Lillard to the Pistons for number 1 overall. I don't want that. He's 31. He makes like $100 million a year. Like, I don't see how that makes any sense. He's also 6'3" and can't guard anybody. It just doesn't make sense. I don't want a 31-year-old point guard that makes $1 bajillion. I don't want 3 first-round picks or 2 picks in the top 10 and another first-round pick elsewhere. Like, I don't want that. I want a guy that is going to be the superstar on my roster. Because
you know how happy I am that we're even having this conversation.
Oh, I am too. Don't get me wrong. Like, Jalen Green has superstar potential. He just doesn't have as much superstar potential as Cade Cunningham. Like, and I don't care what the other 2 picks are because they don't equal to Cade Cunningham. There's just no way I make the trade.
No, I 100% agree, and I'm just laughing because, like, thinking about it, our last show, we're praying to the basketball gods that we'd be in a position to draft Jalen Green, and now we're like, you're going to need to give us a king's ransom to draft Jalen Green.
Right? Like, no, and I'm going to throw the question back around to you: is there a package that a team could create that causes you to listen?
I listen different than actually agreeing to it. I will. The only team that I'll even listen to is Houston because I'm not moving further back than 2.
Realistically speaking, obviously.
Yeah. But any package for me to accept, it's hard for me to envision because if I'm not mistaken, I don't even think Houston has their own picks coming up. I believe they have Brooklyn's for the next couple drafts, and those are not going to be high first round picks. Looking at Brooklyn's roster,
that they could trade you multiple picks in this draft, multiple firsts in this draft.
I know, but I don't want their back of the first round picks.
23 and 24. So it'd be 2, 23, and 24 that they have.
Yeah.
So no, I don't want either one of those.
Yeah, exactly. So, and like I was saying, a guy like Cade Cunningham, it's not just that he's a better player than Jalen Green. It's the type of player he is so hard to come by that you don't just trade that away.
Right. 100% agree. And frankly, where you say you listen to it, I don't. It's the only team that'll get me to answer the phone for me to say, bitch, you thought, and then I hang up. Like, that's just because I have a feeling that they just think that they can do it, and I would just clown them. Like, there's...
Get their hopes up a little bit. Like
that I even answer the phone.
Because act like you're interested.
I straight up would screen every other team calling me because I know they're not offering Luka. I know they're not offering Tatum. So anybody else that called me, I'd just screen the call and hit ignore. Houston calling, I'd pick up, laugh, and hang up. Like, that's it. I would not listen to a single trade offer for this pick.
I just let me consult with my guys real quick and let me get back to you. And I would just like let them like keep ringing and like keep them on the hook, like thinking
Just
like
let them
we're
listen to
working
the
towards
whole
a deal.
music. It's that like that sad TikTok song with that kid singing that song. Oh, I can't remember the name of the song. Damn it! But you could just—that's your hold music for them.
No, like I would literally keep them on. I'd like keep them hanging for a month until draft day. Keep them thinking there's a chance or they're gonna get that pick from me, and then just take Cade Cunningham right in front of their face. That's.
I just want to know how the hell a Houston fan can think the Rockets are in a better position to win right now. Like, what do they have?
Kevin
Christian
Porter
Wood. All right, I'll
Jr..
give you that.
Congratulations, John, from us.
Yeah, you got Christian Wood. I'll give you that. All right, we got Jeremy Grant. I'd argue that those at least close to cancel out. All right, KPJ better than Sadiq Bey? No. You could argue he's better than Isaiah Stewart. Sure, that's fine. I'll give you that.
Totally
Who else you
player.
got?
I mean, you got Jay Sean Tate. He was
Kenyon Martin Jr.?
First team, right?
Yeah, Jay Sean Tate's a good player. I'll give him that.
But he's also what? Isn't Jay Sean Tate like 27?
I have no idea. I thought he was wasn't he a rookie?
Yeah, but he was an old rookie.
How can you be 27 and a rookie? He's 25. How is this man so old? What, did he get held back 3 years in the fourth grade?
I was 2 years off.
Did he get held back 3 years?
Off.
Like, geez. How is he so old?
I think he played in the G League for a couple years.
Ah, okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Either way, there's no chance I'm trading this pick. It ain't happening. Ain't happening. No way, no how.
He played with the NBL.
Oh, so he played overseas.
The National Basketball League.
Yeah, he played overseas then. That's why.
Yeah.
Because I believe that's the Australian League, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, it's the Australian League. There isn't a realistic package you can put together that I will accept.
No.
It's Cade Cunningham or bust.
I fully agree. But yeah, this is a surreal podcast.
It really is.
Right now.
It just feels so good. I just almost feel like we have like these halos over our head. The sun is shining on what has been the rainiest week in like Detroit history. It's been a weird weather week.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like
it's like
we've
rain every day, but like
and then it's sunny all day
by like long periods of like sunshine. It looks like it's never gonna rain again. Like
right. And that like when I looked at the radar for this week, I went, "Oh God!" Like or the forecast for this week, I went, "Oh God, it's going to rain for the next 13 straight days. We're literally going to drown. We better build an ark." And then as the days go by, it's just rain keeps pushing back an hour and another hour, and then it doesn't rain. And then all of a sudden we get a downpour where we get like 14 feet of rain and we're all drowning for like 10 minutes though.
And then early this afternoon we had a torrential downpour with thunderstorms.
Dude,
and then
there was lightning
by like
and thunder.
6 o'clock, it was sunny and beautiful outside.
I know. There was lightning and thunder at like in my area that shook my entire house.
Yeah.
Like I thought windows were gonna break. It was so loud.
And my desk is right by like a giant window. So I was like, do I need to move?
But no, like it feels like Cade Cunningham brought sunshine to the Detroit area.
Mm-hmm. But did you see the video of Cade Cunningham watching the lottery?
No, I didn't know there was one.
Oh yeah, he was with his whole like team, like his.
Did they look excited?
Team.
Did they look excited?
Oh yeah, one dude was they were all like cheering and shit. One dude was like, "We're gonna turn Detroit up." Cade was pounding his chest. I'm like, how can you watch this video? And then our dude from the back, I was like, yo, Sadiq's FaceTiming you. Like,
the fact that like that's how in all reality, that's how you know that there's no way Jalen Green is the pick.
Yeah,
that's how you know.
Where do you have players FaceTiming?
Exactly. Like it is so clear and obvious that Cade Cunningham is the pick. That your own team, that you got players FaceTiming him, you got people talking to him, you got players players from the other Detroit teams already welcoming him to the city.
Yeah.
There's no way anybody else is the pick.
I honestly think the most how can I properly phrase this? The least talked about aspect of Cade Cunningham that I think just doesn't get enough attention. That's what I want to put it. The aspect
most
of
underrated as part of his game.
Sure, is actually his work ethic and just his compete level. Like he's another one of those players that kind of fits the Detroit mold, and it's kind of like perfect.
It's
that we get
because
the
the
number
way
one
his
pick
it's because his
this
game
year.
is so smooth and fluid that it doesn't look like he's trying that hard. It's almost like watching Luka Doncic with the ball in his hands. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't have this crazy explosiveness, so he doesn't look like Russell Westbrook looks like the biggest try hard on the court ever. But it's the way he plays, and Luka's like the exact opposite. But Luka tries every single game, and he's this work ethic guy, and he gives it his all, game in and game out, practice in, practice out, and that's how Cade Cunningham is. Doesn't look like he's trying that hard, but it's just the way he plays. Like his game is so fluid, it's almost artistic.
And he's a worker, man. The guy puts in work. That's what I love about him. But if there's one aspect of Cade that I do want to see him improve on, and you saw him do it a couple times in college, but not as much as you would like given the team he was on, is just that like mentality of, all right, it's time for me to
This
take
game is
over.
mine. I need to score 25 straight points. Fuck everybody else. Yeah.
He did it a couple times in college, but not like consider the team he was on where he barely had any talent around him. You would have thought you would have seen it more, but I do think that will come as his confidence grows in the NBA. But
No, and I think it will happen. And I think the NBA is a league that brings that out of you. You don't see it as much in a college player. And I think the NBA is a league that brings that out of you to where they take over the game because they know they have to. And that's their role. I think the NBA is so much of a superstars league, more so than college basketball to an extreme. And that's where it'll come out. And you'll see Cade, I think, welcome that role with open arms. And hit his stride with it too.
yeah,
So, all right. So one last question.
yep,
Unless you have anything else.
no,
All right. One last question before we close things out here. And this is a great. Oh, it feels so good to be asking this question. I guess it's a two-parter.
Are you taking Cade Cunningham number one pick? Yes, I am.
No. Well, okay. No. Will we see a playoff win in this city in the next 3 years?
Like from any of our teams?
From any of our teams, will we see a playoff win from any of our teams in this city in the next 3 years? And does this put the Pistons as the team that's going to do it first, in your mind?
I think yes on both counts. I definitely see, especially with next offseason free agency with Blake Griffin coming off the books and what you have the potential to do there. I think the Pistons are in a position to bring a. It's so weird to say, it's to bring a playoff win to this city.
You know, it's
Sooner
sad that we have
later.
to say that. Like, in my lifetime, I don't know if there's ever been a more barren wasteland for playoff victories that I can recall. Like in the 90s, we had the Wings. We had, then the early 2000s, we had the Pistons. We had the Wings. We had the Tigers. Mid 2000s up into 2010, we had the Tigers. We had the Wings in '08. Like, you had it all. And then after that, like 2010, 2020 pretty much was just a barren wasteland almost.
Yeah.
Outside of the Tigers in 2012, but
Like, Lions are just now beginning the rebuild, so I think they're nowhere close. Tigers have this beginning seeds of it with guys like
you're
Casey
actually
Mize,
starting
Spencer
to see some
Torkelson.
improvement with the Tigers, and it's a
Yeah.
little scary. I will say this. You will see this team flirt with 500 over the next few weeks. You will see this team even going within 5 games possibly of a wild card. Do not be sold by it. This team is not that good, and it's because if you look at their schedule, they play a dumpster schedule the next few weeks. Like
You
some of
still
the worst
have
teams in
hitting.
the league.
Like,
Right. No, I know, but there will be people who get swayed by the Tigers winning a bunch of games over the next few weeks. And it's all because of the fact that they are playing a dumpster schedule. Like, they're basically playing a AAA schedule the next few weeks. Do not get swayed by it.
as someone who watches the Tigers very passively, is Akil Badu our best bet right now? Not counting Torque.
I still
Because he
think it's
doesn't
Jammer
actually-
Candelario, to be honest with you. And Torque is just starting to come alive in minor league ball. Riley Green has really looked really good. I think he's a guy that's going to be a star on that team, but I still think it's Jammer Candelario right now. How Akil Badu has been able to kind of rebound after his massive slump, after his otherworldly start, is very impressive, but I still think that their best bet right now is Candelario.
I was just curious. But yeah, so they're still they have the inklings, but I don't
They're not
still not close.
They're not close to winning yet. No.
And would have told, like, before this lottery, I would have told you it's neck and neck between the Red Wings and the Pistons, with the Red Wings probably edging the Pistons out. But I think Cade Cunningham puts some space in the Pistons and the Red Wings, because the Red Wings don't have that.
No, they don't have that guy.
They don't have the guy yet.
They don't have the guy, and the Pistons are getting the guy. So yeah, I do think it causes the Pistons to leapfrog the Wings and who's closer. And I think the Pistons, honestly, they're almost. You can even argue that they're almost getting close to lapping everybody else at this point with how close they are now, because this moves the rebuild into a situation where you're almost done. Like you guys are almost ready to win. You've got one more offseason.
The amount of young pieces we have on this team
that are already good.
How quickly Troy Weaver did that is insane to me. He's been the GM for about a year.
If this team in just a couple of years goes to a conference finals, it should go down to, he should be put in the Hall of Fame and go down in history as the greatest rebuild and as the composer of the greatest rebuild in the history of the sport.
You just got to have an executive year coming. Like,
if he
works.
doesn't, like, oh man. But no, I think the Pistons are the team that wins the first playoff game in this city in a long time, for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right, that is going to close it out this week, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We didn't get this out last week, obviously, with Andrew being on vacation and other stuff going on. You know, life happens, but we got to it this week, and the countdown to Cade time is on.
I'll just, if we had recorded last week, it would have been a terrible show, because my mind would have been so scattered. Like, it's still scattered,
right?
But I would have been so like high on adrenaline. I would not have had coherent
you had to allow yourself
mouth.
to have it sink in, collect your thoughts. But no,
but now we're probably the last podcast to talk about this. So.
Right. So, but thank you guys again. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report. Give us your thoughts on Cade. Let us know your excitement. Let's hear it. Andrew, thank you for joining me. We will catch you guys next week. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
Have a good one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy your holiday weekend. Happy 4th of July to everybody out there.
Yes.
We'll catch you guys later. Peace out.
Peace.